is Dr. Lindsay. What I want to do in this video is just go through a real quick summary of monetary policy. This is probably the best way to stabilize the economy, by changing the money supply, and it's done by the Federal Reserve. It's thought that changes in the money supply affect aggregate demand. Increases in the money supply stimulate the economy because it increases aggregate demand. That is a loose policy or easy policy or an accommodative policy. A contractionary policy would be reducing the money supply. That has the effect of raising interest rates, reducing aggregate demand. It reduces GDP and lowers the inflation rate. So the Fed has all these different choices of what they want to do, from on one side being contractionary to the other side being expansionary. They have their mandate set by Congress of trying to keep the economy at maximum sustainable employment, which means outside or right on the PPF and full employment, and yet keep prices stable. That means they interpret that about 2% inflation is stable prices. Expansionary policy is used if GDP is less than potential, and a contractionary policy does be used if inflation is over what they would like it to be. In the short run, it's thought that monetary policy works by changing aggregate demand. So increasing the money supply increases aggregate demand, and the result is a new equilibrium where output is higher and prices are higher. Decreasing the money supply, raising interest rates, lowers aggregate demand, which lessens GDP and lowers the inflation rate. In the long run, though, any change in aggregate demand will not change the long-run equilibrium that the economy is at potential output on the PPF. The only effect that monetary policy has in the long run is to change the inflation rate. So in the long run, if the Fed wants a 2% inflation rate, they can get it. It's thought that money is neutral in the long run, but not neutral in the short run. So money definitely affects the economy in the short run, but it doesn't affect the economy, at least the real variables in the economy, real GDP, unemployment, real interest rates in the long run. It only affects the price level in the long run. In the short run, it affects prices and inflation rate somewhat, but prices and inflation is slow to adjust in the short run. It mainly affects output in the short run. So money's not neutral in the short run, meaning money neutrality does not hold in the short run, but the thinking is money is neutral in the long run, and money neutrality holds in the long run. We went through these examples mainly to show you how to think about this and use the model. Think about, okay, what position, what state is the economy in, and try to draw that using the aggregate demand, aggregate supply curves. And then we'll get an idea, are we inside the PPF, out, and what is inflation? You might also try to figure out how we got into that position. Maybe we got into that position because the Fed was too loose or too tight. Then you can look at it as, well, what can the Fed do about it? And essentially, they're going to be changing the money supply to expand and lowering the money supply to contract. And through interest rates, that changes the aggregate demand curve. And then we can see with this model what's going to happen to real GDP and inflation. If real GDP increases, it means the unemployment rate should go down. And if real GDP decreases, the unemployment rate should go up.